You ask folks what some of their favourite games of all time are, and you'll likely get The Witcher 3, one of the many Zelda games, Bioshock, The Last of Us, the original Halo, but one that's sure to make the list is Shadow of the Colossus. Widely regarded as one of the best games of all time, Shadow of the Colossus is receiving a remake treatment, and boy, what a remake it is. Instead of doing a Resident Evil remake of tinkering with the gameplay and the mechanics, Bluepoint Games rightly decided to leave the gameplay untouched, and instead they pushed the graphical bar so high that it's one of the best looking PS4 games out there. Graphically, the game is a huge step up from the original PlayStation 2 version and the more recent PS3 remake. It looks like a completely different game. Textures are well detailed, fur on the Colossi look incredibly real, and it holds up with an incredibly rock solid frame rate. PS4 Pro support is here, and it's one of the best showcases of Pro support I've seen. The game supports your 4K HDR on more expensive TVs, but there's also two graphical options for both 1080p and 4K TVs. First you have your cinematic mode, which has the frame rate at a rock solid 30fps and improves the graphics. And on the other option is probably the best one in my opinion, the performance mode, which bumps the frame rate up to 60fps. The cost of it is the graphics taking a little hit. Honestly, playing at 60fps is a revelation. It all moves beautifully smooth with hardly a drop frame in sight. Bluepoint Games have done a truly wonderful job here. I could gush over how wonderful the game looks all day, but that would be a huge disservice to the game. The story follows a soldier character called Wanderer, who's travelling to find a way to bring his dead female friend back to life. He arrives at a temple of sorts, and the gods from above inform him that to save his female friend he must slaughter 16 beasts that roam the land. So off you go with your bow, sword, and your trusty horse in search of these beasts. But are your actions justified, or is it grief clouding your judgment? See, the reason why I said that is that these colossi that roam the land seem very innocent creatures that are just minding themselves till you come and attack them. The game story is pretty vague with your character's background, and by the beginning and ending cutscene, the rest of the story is really up to you and your morality on how you react to the events of the game. It's a clever way of storytelling that allows you to make your own opinion of the story, and each player's interpretation of the story will be different. As for the gameplay, it remains pretty much unchanged from the 2005 original. Shadow of the Colossus sees you exploring an open world in search of the 16 Colossi. The main goal is obviously the Colossi, but the world itself is also a star in itself, as it's free for you to explore at your leisure. There are plenty of secrets to find, the odd collectible to nab to increase your health and stamina, and while the world is pretty barren and empty, it does feel rather refreshing compared to the many cluttered open world games out there today. When it comes to fighting the Colossi, each of these battles are a huge heart-pounding battle that truly feels like something special. When you first find a Colossi, you must first identify its weak point. You can do that by pointing your sword up in the air. Once you've found its weak point, then you've got to find a way to climb up its weak point. This is where you must experiment with your equipment to try and topple it or find a gap for you to climb up. Each of the battles feel like a puzzle waiting to be solved, and it's a really rewarding and exhilarating experience when you finally take these big guys down. The first few colossi are easy enough to settle you in, but they do ramp up the difficulty and spectacle, as later colossi have multiple weak points and new strategies to take it down. It's certainly a very clever game. Length-wise, the game is a decent 7 to 10 hours long if you just focus on defeating the colossi, but it can take you a fair few more hours if you decide to explore the land. Once you've completed the game, there is a time attack mode perfect for speedrunners, and there is multiple difficulties, so there is some great excuses to go back to this wonderful game. Also wonderful in this game is the absolutely majestic soundtrack that is one of the best soundtracks in video game history. I tell you something, when the orchestral soundtrack kicks in whilst fighting a colossi, it's one of the most defining moments of the game. The game's controls have also been updated for the DualShock 4 in mind, and they do feel really easy to pick up and play. Those purists who prefer the original controls will be pleased to hear that you can swap controls to the PS2 original, which is a great touch. Another new inclusion includes the, as standard for most PS4 games, photo mode, which is a great new addition. You'll be constantly pausing the game to take a quick snap and just look at all how beautiful it all looks. It's that brilliant. Conclusion time now, and Blue Point Games have given one of the best games of all time, one of the best remakes of all time. It's graphically one of the best you'll see on the PS4, as you can tell a lot of care and attention went into it. Most importantly though, the gameplay is still strong here, and the Colossi fights are still a phenomenal feat in gaming. It's a game that everyone with a PS4 should own, and those who are playing this for the first time are in for a real treat indeed. Shadow of the Colossus on the PS4 gets a 10 out of 10 with the title of Masterpiece. Thank you for watching my review, like, rate and subscribe, and until next time, happy gaming. Bye!